Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Rhonda.
I'm Kayla.
And we're here for Tarot Delights. We're talking about the High Priestess today.
Ooh, it's a fun card.
Yes, that is a very fun card. So I've got a few of my decks out, and you've got some decks out all portraying the High Priestess. I still have to find mine because I'm not as organized.
Well, the only reason how I'm organized is because I was like, we're doing a podcast today, and I frantically was doing this before I left the house. So, while we're doing this, any fun magical moments? I know that might be trademarked, but I got a good idea from another podcast, and they just kind of spend a couple of minutes reflecting on their week and seeing what are some good things that have happened.
Yeah. It's always good to focus on some of the good things because, of course, misery loves company, and we can always name off the bad things that it didn't go well for us during the week. But yeah, what good thing happened?
I started my summer job that doesn't feel like a summer job, so that's exciting.
Nice. I'm moving over because you're a little off.
Am I? Okay.
A little off. That's okay. I want us both to be in the shot. There we go. We're still perfecting the technology of all of this. So we're here today. Good things that happened to me. Well, it was busy in the parlor.
Yay. Busyness is good.
Yes. And I got quite a bit done. So I'm really excited because a lot of the stuff that I'm working on is coming out in the fall. So, yeah.
I gotta get on some of my stuff. Haven't given its proper attention the last little week or two.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about, I was almost going to say the Fool because I was looking at the Fool card there. I'm excited about again, I was going to do it with the star. For the fall. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the fall's a really fun time in general.
Don't you find it's almost like a new year? Like it's a new start?
Well, yeah, because doesn't the wheel of the year, the new year flips over on Samhain, right?
Samhain, yeah.
Samhain, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's a hard word.
Never trust my pronunciation. Let's just go with that, because I will always get it wrong.
No, and that's a hard word. It took me a while to get down with that word. And even spelling it, sometimes I'm like, is the N come first or the M come first? Because it's a Gaelic word, and Gaelic words have letters in there that have no business being in there at all. And then you don't pronounce them as the letters that are there. So there you go. Some Gaelic people might disagree with that and say, no, it's right. Everything's right about it. But
Gaelic's fascinating. I wish I had the time or the mental capacity to learn Gaelic.
Yeah, it's a lot like learning Mohawk.
Oh,
Mohawk's another really hard language. I'm an Irish Indian, as I call myself. So I have Gaelic on one side and Mohawk on the other. Neither language is easy to learn. And I have a hard enough time with English.
I was gonna say, you got the trifecta of funness in languages.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I found all my High Priestesses from my fun little decks here. Oh, I don't know what the Fool's doing out, but
the Fool just wanted to come play.
Yeah, he wanted to come play. He's supposed to be interacting with all of them anyways. That's the whole point of who the Fool is and the hero's quest or the hero's journey, as it's sometimes called. So the High Priestess, the first female that we meet in tarot, traditionally speaking. So this is what the traditional High Priestess looks like. She's garbed in blue. She's got the full moon on her head, the crescent moon at her feet. She's between a white and black pillar. There's many interpretations to
those pillars. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I love one of the cards I'll show in a sec. Actually, I'll do it right now. So I have the This My Heart Tarot by Isabel Rothman, and it's kind of one of my more prominent working decks. And I love that she made them trees. The pillars are now trees. I don't know. Trees just speak to me, so that's maybe why I like the card.
Are they particular trees? Is there anything written on them?
I don't know. No, she didn't write the
type of tree or
type of tree or anything. I'll have to look up the guidebook.
Yeah. But one's a darker bark and one's a lighter bark.
Yeah. So you still have that like light and dark symbolism there for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, the idea is she's sitting right dead center in the middle. So one interpretation is the light and dark, the yin and yang of life, and that, you know, we all have the ability to bring misery into our own lives, to bring evil even into our own lives. And then, but we also have the equal ability to bring divinity and good into our lives. It's just sort of which way. And then there's also those gray areas, right, that life is full of, as we know. So another fun one, well, my working deck is the Gilded deck. So this is the High Priestess in the Gilded deck. And I just love that she's dancing, right? Because I do a lot of shamanic work, and one of the questions and one of the things I tell a lot of my clients, I ask them, when's the last time you danced? And I try to encourage people to bring dance into their lives, even if it's just before, you know, you go out to work in the morning, because it can change your entire day. Because dance, they've done a lot of studies on music and dance, and it can really help, especially those who are suffering from any kind of mental health issues, to people with dementia and Alzheimer's and whatnot. So it really has a huge effect on our brain. And when we allow ourselves to move to music, it affects us physically as well as mentally, and of course spiritually as well. So
For sure. And if I could add a little anecdotal to that, even this morning, so I'm a big proponent for music in the morning. It's kind of like my coffee. So there are days I can't survive without that either. But in lieu of coffee, it's always music and sometimes a little dance, a little boogie, depending on what I'm doing and where I am. Even this morning. So I was heading here and traffic was a little nutty, weirdly enough.
yeah, it was bad out there this morning.
And so what song was playing? It was something like not of my era, but it was still really catchy. And so like I'm bopping along and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a good day. So like having that like burst of dance or burst of movement early on in your day can really set your mindset up for success.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, for sure. And what's funny about the High Priestess is there's some history behind her. And, you know, the old adage, you know, well-behaved woman never made it in the history books kind of thing. I'm paraphrasing that. Well, she is definitely in the history books, because a lot of people, and you probably know this if you've ever dabbled in tarot, if you're a tarot reader, if you're a tarot enthusiast, you've probably heard people go, oh, it's evil. It's the devil, ha ha ha, and people are scared of it and think it's a demonic thing. It's not because of the demon in it, the devil card, or any of the dark parts of the cards. It's the High Priestess herself that got the church back in, I don't know, God knows when. It was in Europe in the 1400s, but and 1300s, I think, even. But the High Priestess is the card that got tarot banned as a demonic, evil, anti-church thing, because she was nicknamed the Popess. And the church did not like the fact that there could be a possibility of a female pope. And right around that time, the 1300s, I know, there was actually two popes. There was one in France and one in Italy, and they were battling over who the right pope was. And then there was the whole scandal of maybe there's a female pope, because there's been stories of some women who have disguised themselves as men because they wanted the education and because they wanted to get into the church beyond being a nun. And so there were rumors, I don't know if any of it's substantiated, of perhaps a pope being female. So I think they now check, or they used to.
I don't think it's kosher nowadays to check, but I would assume just with what we've come from and how society used to run, they would probably have checked.
Yeah, so if anyone knows actual historical facts, please feel free to put them in the comments. I always love hearing more history about tarot and whatnot. But it was because she was nicknamed the Popess card, the church didn't like it, and she is the one that got tarot banned, and, you know, the bad PR of it being demonic and
Could
all
it
this
also
kind of
be
stuff.
too that because the Pope comes before the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is
He's nicknamed the Pope card.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, so the Hierophant is nicknamed the Pope card, and they were fine with that because he's a male.
Yep.
But when this became the Popess, that's when they suddenly had issues. So yeah, so she's a very strong woman. She's our second teacher in tarot. She's also called the Receptor because we're supposed to be receptive in this sort of stance, and this is what she kind of teaches us. She has been nicknamed also the Witch card and the Wise Woman card, and in some decks you'll maybe see that. Now, speaking of different names, I have the Inner Child cards, the Fairy Tale Tarot by Isha Lerner and Mark Lerner. Oh, they must be married. Illustrated by, or brother and sister, I don't know. Illustrated by Christopher Guilfoyle. I'm not good at pronouncing names, but this is the deck. I love this deck because I love fairy tales and the history of fairy tales. So this is a fairy tale tarot deck, and the cards are very flimsy. I don't like the cards, but I love the concept of the cards, and it comes with a big ass book. So there's the Inner Child book.
The guidebook. Oh, I love a meaty guidebook.
Yeah, so there's a meaty guidebook as well as a workbook that goes with it.
That's even better.
I know, right? Like I was just in my glory when I found this deck. And their high priestess is the fairy godmother. So this is kind of an interesting concept, especially if you consider the original Cinderella story.
Okay, yes.
Not the Disney-fied one.
Which unfortunately is probably the ones we are most familiar with. Like I myself am familiar with the Disney version.
So the original Grimm's, and I'm not talking the 1829, I think I'm talking a little earlier. Can't remember the exact date, but they have many editions of that because they've revised it again and again. But in the original fairy tale of Cinderella, there actually is no fairy godmother. She comes in the form of a bird, because her mother dies, as we all know. And oh, hello, there's a door or a car door that just hit our window.
Sorry, we're easily distracted.
Yes. Well, also too, we're probably lucky that window didn't cave in.
Yeah.
It's like, watch where your doors are going. Anyways, so in the original one, her mother dies, just like in the other ones that we've seen, but she goes to visit her mother's grave when she's feeling down because her stepsisters and stepmother are so mean to her. But she goes to a grave where I believe it's not an olive, but a hazel tree. Yeah, a hazel tree is planted, and the birds sit in the hazel tree, and they give her advice. She receives messages there, and the hazel tree is considered very protective as well. And then also they help her with things like there's an exercise that she has to do where the stepmother throws like lentils into the ashes of the fire, and she has to pick them all out as one of her jobs. And it's a very good job. I've done it in circle where people have had to separate split peas.
I remember that.
Yes, yes. It's a very
that was a while
mindful
ago. But
kind of exercise.
It helps bring your mind from a place of like gotta go to really just being mindful and being like, okay, this is my only task right now. And it helps you kind of like get out of that really kind of stressful mindset, I find, and a little bit more purposeful. Sorry to derail your thought process.
No, you're not derailing at all. No, I'm glad because you've been through it, and it's in that sort of do that mundane kind of task of separating and organizing that you kind of then your mind goes to different places because it's a way of distracting your monkey mind. So you're not like thinking about the things that stress you out, or that, because the monkey mind can't criticize that. It's not like, oh, you're doing this, or you could never do this, or you could never do, you're just separating peas from lentils or something.
Yeah, and
silly.
it's going to happen in the time it's going to happen. Like, you can't rush that, or you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And not that mistakes are a bad thing, because they're not, but you just, in being present, the rest of the world kind of just fades, and it's really a nice way to relax your mind and not be overstressed about things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else about the High Priestess?
Well, I
Oh, that was the other thing. Sorry.
No. By all
Between the
means.
two pillars, I saw another comparison because we talked about the light and dark, but it's also severity and mercy, which I really love because when we're young, we're often very severe, very black and white. You
Yeah.
know, like this is wrong. We should hurt this person or jail them up forever or kill this person because of what they did. We're very eye for an eye, especially when we're young. But as we get older, we start to see the gray areas and we start to have more empathy and more compassion and sympathy for different people. Maybe they've done some wrong, but what was the circumstances around why? And we start to pose those questions, and we're more able to give mercy and understanding to people that have misstepped, because who hasn't misstepped? We all have, right? We've all made mistakes. So I really loved that severity versus mercy, and knowing that this is sort of a course we come from this black and white to the gray and the white, the sort of the more mercy side of things. And it's with age that we do that often. I mean, it's very rare you meet a young person that isn't like, this is how it is.
Well, and I think we all learn, because I can, as you're explaining that, I can think of specific situations, and luckily there are not many, in life where I was like, no, I'm, rushing in and not thinking things through, and I thought I was right. And in hindsight, hindsight's 2020, you realize you're like, no, maybe we need to like sift through information before we go telling somebody else, or we go figuring out what could be the truth without all of the pieces of the story that you need. And I can think of at least twice off the top of my head that I've done that to the detriment. Luckily, I was a student at the time, so like it was the point of me doing or being in the situation that I was very much in the sense that I was able to learn from those, and people were like, okay, you're a student, you're still learning. So it does come with more experience and more, I guess, reflection. But as you were talking there, this came to, so I'm holding up The Magic of Tarot, and it's by Sasha Graham.
Oh, nice. I like Sasha Graham.
I'm a big fan of Sasha Graham. And so she had the High Priestess. She's the truth of your life and the key to your karma. The High Priestess holds the answer to every question. The answers are inside of you. So if you really kind of self-reflect, you'll learn a lot.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So being that teacher portion of her as well.
Yeah. And part of that severity is placing judgment too quickly.
Yep.
Without finding out facts around the situation. Or, like I said, being so black and white. No, absolutely. Because, like, I've been young and heard about something, and even when I heard extra information, I was still, well, that's still wrong. There's still
Yep.
a bad person for doing that. And, and having that severity, maybe it's part of my Aries, because Aries, we start out as the warrior that will pick up the battle axe at any point that we deem necessary. But hopefully we grow into our wise warrior and learn diplomacy.
So having that duality of energy, right?
Yes.
Having that wise warrior, and also, what was the other one? I'm blanking on the other piece of energy that you have. You have your wise warrior and...
I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure.
I'll put it in the comments when I think about it.
Yeah.
My brain was going somewhere and it just derailed off the tracks.
No worries. Well, let's see what else. What else is she's a virgin too? That's the other thing.
Key.
But virgin in the old concept. So virgin back in the day, because there were even the Vestal virgins for the priestesses of the goddess Vesta. So back in the day, virgin did not mean you had not had sex. It meant you were a woman whole unto yourself, and you didn't need a man, and she doesn't belong to any man. Same thing, and a lot of people out there that are Catholic are gonna wallop this, but I believe the Virgin Mary is also of that kind of virginity, that she belonged to no man, especially when she conceived Jesus Christ. She conceived through the Holy Spirit, who is the female aspect of God. And so it was through the goddess and through the Virgin Mary that Jesus came into the world. And I know I'm going to get walloped for that, but there you go.
Well, I think it's interesting to call into question about certain things, because why is it only this way because we've learned it this way? And like even historical texts, so like the Bible is made up of certain historical texts, or
And has been
Ish.
reinterpreted and reinterpreted
Yeah.
over and over again.
and then there's other texts they didn't include because it didn't fit the narrative. So like
Exactly.
I think
depending on the king that was
Yes.
narrating it
so
at
I think
that
it's
point.
really interesting that, and if you're one of those people that's like, no, that's wrong, like open your mind a little bit and take in some more information, and maybe you'll learn something.
Yeah. Mel, if you're out there, come on in. Have a seat. We have an audience. Yay.
That's it, we're going on tour.
Yeah, that's right. An audience of one. Woohoo. Pick a chair, any chair. Oh, yeah, the keys are right there. Help yourself. Oh, dear. Okay, so that, like I said, she is the Virgin in the ancient way. She's also an excellent listener, calm, understanding, empathetic. She is our second teacher. And the main thing that she teaches us is the first beginnings of meditation, of self-reflection, and the ability to be still. And being still doesn't actually mean being still necessarily. It means that we relax our monkey mind, that we learn to come to center, and we learn how to breathe. Breathing is such an important thing. And
People overlook that.
Yes, right? Breathing properly is the key to good health, by the way. And if you breathe mindfully, one full breath in and one full breath out. I'm actually reading a book about breathing, and every time I start reading it, I start breathing deeper and better and correctly, because most North Americans don't breathe properly and don't breathe deeply enough to, cure our systems. Because breathing is one of the best ways you can do just breathing properly to increase better health. So I've been practicing it myself, trying to be more mindful of it.
Yeah.
But she is the one that teaches us how to breathe mindfully, the first stages of that. And that is part of transcendental meditation. So oftentimes people say, oh, I only meditate, but I have to go to YouTube and find a video and blah, blah, blah. And that meditation is great, but it's actually guided visualization, even though they call it guided meditation. Meditation is one breath in, one breath out, and being mindful about it. That is meditation in its essence, but it's also a constant coming back to center. And that is where you find the stillness. So it's a paradox.
It is.
She really teaches us that first paradox of being active to gain stillness.
And that's, I think she's early on in the journey, because this is a key concept that sometimes people overlook, and then they get hit roadblocks later on when they're learning from other teachers. Because if you take the major arcana as teachers, like we're doing, this is a fundamental thing that if you don't figure this one out, you're not going to be able to learn properly from the rest of the teachers coming to you after this one. Because I've had to sit with like that archetypal of like, okay, this is the first teacher, this is the second teacher, and what am I learning? And sometimes like, okay, I've learned that. And it's like, no, you've got to spiral back or spiral around again and relearn that lesson. And then sometimes you get something deeper out of it, or you think you've learned one thing and when in actuality the high priestess was teaching you something else. And I really like the I had it here, the teaching of you're always meant to, so like looking inside yourself and being that still moment and looking inside yourself and finding that magic within you, because without that piece it's going to be harder to move forward and become the person that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, because repetition is the key to learning. Repetition is the mother of skill, if you think about it, right? So that she is the first of 3 meditation cards. because a lot of things repeat themselves in tarot just in different ways and different levels. Like you were saying, you spiral. And that really is how to learn. Because, I mean, if we could learn our ABCs after we sung the song once, that would be great. But we have to sing it
6
over and
months,
over
at least.
and over again.
I spend my time in primary classrooms. They drill this in.
Exactly.
In a nice way.
Yeah, but everything is drilled in. No matter what you want to
Yep.
learn, everything needs to be drilled in. And the magician before the high priestess is the one that unpacked our bags and showed us the tools physically outside ourselves that we have to use and to gain spiritual enlightenment and growth. But the high priestess tells us to come inward and look inside ourselves. So they're kind of different concepts, but in the same realm of growth and spiritual enlightenment and whatnot. Yes, there you go. What else? Like I said, she's one of, and the first of the meditation cards that we experience in tarot. Anything else we got here?
Oh, there's tons.
Yes.
I mean,
She's also a reminder when she comes up in a spread, especially a reminder that it's time to listen. You need to listen. This is a skill most of us do not have. We're very good at talking, but we're not so good at listening. And listening is a skill to definitely hone if you want growth, if you want to help others, because essentially one of the levels of spiritual enlightenment is to be of service to others. We have to learn to love ourselves first, though, and then we can be of proper service to others. Anything else you got?
well, she is what makes the difference between the rose and the daffodil. So they're using a flower analogy. She's the difference between a bumblebee and a bat. Difference between you and your best friend. So really, she's all about learning who you are. So by coming into stillness and by realizing that there's magic inside of you, you are your unique person. And she's there to kind of teach you that as a fundamental piece before you move on and learn more about yourself. But I'm sure we could probably do a part 2 to this as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because there's so much symbology on there, right? Because she sits in front of a curtain and
Yes.
she's guarding knowledge that we're not capable of understanding right now. Now on the traditional tarot, she's got pomegranates and palm trees. Palm trees are male and pomegranates are female. I don't think I need to explain why those things are
So
those
you notice,
energies.
so I found that really interesting. So pomegranates and palm trees.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have the palm trees on this one. It seems to just be pomegranates and their leaves.
Oh, okay.
And then this one, you can kind of see the palm trees, but they almost...
Yeah, it almost looks more like pomegranates or...
Yeah. So I don't know. I find it really interesting when artists take deviated artistic license
Yeah.
in the illustrations. Not that changes the meaning of the card. I just find it really interesting.
And she always almost sits on water of some kind.
Yes.
There's a river running beneath her. Because again, it's about being actively still, if that makes sense. And she has an equal cross on her to mark the directions as well. And
that's
back in the
interesting.
day, the church used to have that equal cross on there. Not the crucifix cross,
Nope.
but the equal directional cross on their garb. I only remember it because my father, after he died, sent me a lot of pagan symbols that were within the church and whatnot. And one of the things he sent me was an equal directional cross that was, because he had a traditional Latin funeral. And they were wearing the traditional Latin robes of the priest, and they had equal directional crosses on their robes.
Well, and it's interesting too because I didn't necessarily grow up in a Catholic, and anytime I went to a Catholic mass with either friends or family, when they did the direction Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I was like, oh, that looks like the directions, north, south, east, west. So I just think it's interesting that innately my brain knew to think of directions rather than
Right.
the
Right.
traditional or ceremony that they were currently using. I like, so this is the Light Seers Tarot High Priestess. This is an interesting card for many reasons because you've got the runes up top, which is an interesting little flavor. I think we should probably dive into that into a future episode. But you can tell she's got the cross there, and the pomegranates are in her scarf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and you've still
nice.
got the light and the dark pillars here as well.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
another interpretation. I know the Light Seers deck is pretty popular.
Yeah, it is a popular deck. I've sold a lot of it. And there's a cool tarot too. It's called After Tarot. So she's got all the traditional things of the Rider-Waite-Smith, but the after one is she's carrying keys now. So these keys you can also find them on the Hierophant because they represent the keys to heaven that St. Peter has, because the Hierophant is supposed to be the Pope, who is St. Peter's representative and God's representative here on earth. So now she's got the keys as well, because she does have that knowledge, because she's got the Torah, they say, as well in her hands there, but she's got that extra level of knowledge.
That the keys represent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, if you
Okay.
guys have any questions about the High Priestess or tarot cards in general, or if you are like gunning for us to step out of, sequential order and want to hear maybe about
if you have any tarot questions, please put them in the comments, and we will do our best to answer them in the next episode. Maybe we'll just do a Q&A next time.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like Kayla said, if you want us to step out of this sequential order of things, we're happy to do that. All right, I guess that's it for this week's episode of the High Priestess Tarot Delights.
Comment down below, subscribe, and thanks so much for listening.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.